Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and those of you who've been watching for a while know I like to grow Jerusalem artichokes. That's what these plants are here, or also known as sunchokes. This is basically a sunflower, except that it creates a really big tuber like a potato in the ground, which you can eat just like a potato, and it comes back every single year. So it's a really good survival food, and that's why I've chosen to grow this, and I have a whole bunch of it. Basically enough for me to probably live on for an entire year if I continually grow it, right? So I'll be eating it, but then more will be growing up once spring comes around again. So basically I could survive indefinitely off of what I've already grown. And so I've started to actually start to eat it. Normally I have stored food and stuff like that, but I figured may as well start getting used to eating the sunchoke. And so one way that I eat the sunchoke is by basically deep frying it in coconut oil using a solar oven. So that's what I'm doing today, and I'll show you how I do that. So this is the solar oven, and even in the winter you can cook even meat or boil soups and all kinds of stuff. It gets super hot as long as the sun's out. And then here's my titanium camping pot, which I've been using for a few days. You can see it has some coconut oil in it, maybe about an inch and a half. And I've been using that for a few days, and it had more coconut oil in it, but of course the sunchokes will absorb some of the oil. But anyways, you just put a bunch in, and then you can use it for several days. So I'm just going to put this in the solar oven in the morning so that it starts to melt. Okay, now I'm going to use my camp shovel to basically dig down and get some tubers out of these sunchokes here. Sometimes you can just pull them. You can see we've already got some food here. So that's probably enough already, right? So this is what I filled up. So now I'm just going to wash these and then cut them up in little pieces. So here's a close-up of what they look like. So you saw I pulled up the plant and a few came with it, but actually usually that's only about a third to a half of the actual tubers that come with that plant. So there's still several more down there just from those two little plants that I pulled up, which are probably at least this big, right? So I can either just leave them in the ground, they're going to grow up next year, or I can dig down. But again, like I said, I don't really need that much. So something I want to show you, you can see it has these little eyes here, and each one will usually have several little eyes, even the really small ones. Each of those are a spot where this thing can grow. So I could cut it right here, and then I can plant this, and this is going to grow. So I could probably grow 5 more sunchokes off of just this one little tuber here. Another thing to know is generally you want to wait until the first freeze, and then all the nutrients and goodness will fall down from the plant, from the leaves, down into this. So you're going to get more food, more energy that way if you wait until that time. Also, more of the I think it's inulin, which is in this, which causes people to, so a lot of people get gas when they eat this. There will be less of that if you wait until the actual freeze. So, but this is a little bit before the freeze, but I've been eating these and I haven't had really much trouble. It comes down to person by person. Some people have trouble with this stuff and some people don't. It also does have to do when you harvest and how you prepare it, right? So if you're boiling it in water, you want to make sure you boil it for a long time. If you cook it in oil, you want to make sure you cook it for a long time to reduce the amount of gas causing material which is going to be in there. Another really nice thing about the sunchokes is it's a plant that you basically just keep in the ground. So with potatoes and things like that, you need to harvest that every year, and then you need to store it in a really dry, cool, dark place over the winter. Hopefully it'll last long enough that you'll be able to eat your potatoes throughout the winter. But with this, it's actually going to hurt them. They're actually going to go bad if you pull them out of the ground. You want to leave them in the ground throughout the entire winter. And just the day that you're going to eat them, go and harvest them and cook those ones and just leave them in the ground. So I think that's really cool. And then the ones that you don't eat are just going to grow up again next year. So Again, I think it's pretty much the perfect survival food. Now that they're washed, I'm going to take my handy dandy survival knife and cut it up into little pieces. Here's all the cut up sunchokes. Okay, you can see the oil has started to melt a little bit, not quite all the way though, but I can go ahead and add these because as soon as it'll melt, they'll submerge. Okay, come in to stir it a little bit. You can see the oil's all melted. Stirring's not really too necessary with the solar oven, but if I was using a fire, I would need to stir it so it didn't get stuck to the bottom there. Okay, we've pulled it out of the oven. You can see the oil is definitely quite hot. And the sunchokes are nice and soft and ready to eat. You can see I can cut right through it. So I'm just going to scoop them into my plate here. I'm going to put a little salt on there, or a lot of salt on there, and also some pepper. There's a deep fried sunchoke. It's just like potatoes. It has a little bit of a distinct flavor that you would say was probably specific to these things, but it's pretty close to potato. And if you like fried potatoes, then you're going to like this. So anyways, this is a little bit of a special situation because normally in a grid down, civilization down type situation, I probably wouldn't have a whole lot of coconut oil to be deep frying this in. But this works with water just fine. You can just boil it. So all you really need to have a meal is to be growing the sunchokes and a pot to boil the water in. Of course, the salt is nice too for flavor, salt and pepper, other spices, and the oil, of course, adds a lot of flavor, makes it so it's going to take longer to digest, so the energy will be extracted over a longer period of time, which is good, but again, like I said, not really necessary. So, and if you are going to use oil, make sure you're using something like ghee, grass-fed butter. Well, I'd say ghee or coconut oil would basically be the only thing that I personally would deep fry this in. Maybe in shea butter, if it's like food grade shea butter, I would do that too. You can also deep fry in that. But any other type of oil, you know, and also you could probably deep fry in animal oils, but I don't use any of those. So the other oils are going to oxidize when you heat them, and it's going to make them really unhealthy for you. So definitely don't be cooking with olive oil, those types of things. Like some people say you can cook with these things, but they do oxidize, and that makes it really bad for you. So I definitely not deep frying, because with deep frying, you're reusing the oil over and over and over again, and the longer that it's heated, the worse that it gets. Okay, so anyways, that's the deep fried sunchokes. Hope you enjoyed. I know I did, and I'll see you guys later. By the way, I'm planning to go on a road trip in a couple of weeks here, probably to Arizona, and we'll see. I might even be there for a couple of months. My goal would to be gone for a while and kind of, you know, get used to the life of not having a steady place to get internet, a place to have food shipped to, that type of stuff, because in the future I'd like that to kind of be more my permanent situation, a more nomadic wandering situation. So this winter is kind of going to be another experiment with that. I did that last year. Anyways, there's a couple of things I'd like to get before I go on that trip, just so I feel comfortable that I'll be all right. And basically all I would need for those is some Monero. So if anyone has spare Monero, you can go to cahlen.org/gift and send me a few so that I have what I need to go on the trip and hopefully to stay for as long as possible. So anyways, thanks again for watching.